Okay guys, so now we are going to go back to the Cuban Missile Crisis. There are three parts. Remember, we have looked at the build-up, how the crisis happened. Today we are going to look at how it was resolved. Today what we're going to do is take a look through the chronology of the crisis. I'm going to take you through some of the important events, okay? Then in the later lessons, then we'll look at how the crisis was resolved, as well as the aftermath of the crisis, okay? So really the question we're asking ourselves here is who won the Cuban Missile Crisis? In order to decide who won, we have to decide what are the goals of each actor, right? The USA, the USSR, and Cuba, right? So let's go how it was resolved. What I'm going to do, on your notes, you should see that you have a timeline along with all the details, okay? All here. Now, it is just the chronology. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to go through and I'm going to pick out some of the important details that you can use as evidence, or it will affect the interpretation of the conflict. All right. So this is the overall. This is how we get a big picture of what is going on in the conflict. Okay, it starts on the 16th and ends on the 28th, and what we will see is that at first, okay, Kennedy announces the blockade, right, which we talked about. After that, in this part, there is a phase which is negotiation, okay, and it ends up with the missiles being removed from Cuba, okay. So let's have a look. So on the 16th of October 1962, please remember it's 1962, Kennedy says, oh, okay, there are nuclear missiles. And here we have already talked about this. The important things to take note are they fear the first strike, okay, and Khrushchev has said that it's for defensive purposes, okay. Again, we know that in this case, Khrushchev, why is he saying that he's of defensive purposes? Because he needs to establish his political legitimacy. You can't walk around saying, I'm putting those missiles there because I want them to be a threat. No, you can't go around saying that you're threatening people, okay? That is unspoken, okay? So what happens is that the USA responds. You notice that in between the 16th and the 22nd, there's nearly a week, but there's a reason why they take so long to respond, because they need to make a choice, right? The slower it is, the slower you respond, the slower the tensions build up, okay. What is the EXCOM? Please go and read your textbook. Is basically the executive committee, and here this is the American response, the naval blockade, which we have already discussed, okay. And so Kennedy informs the American public through a televised address. This is a very common source in SBQ, whether it is O-level, other school papers, so on and so forth. You can go and Google it and go and find it. We also note that Khrushchev has it. Okay, so this translator for Khrushchev is given to him. So Khrushchev, so what is this? Who is the audience here in this source? I know it is televised, so audience, yes, it is the American people, right? But think about it, it is also for a global audience. Everybody has TV, everybody's tuning in, everybody's catching the news. So you must consider that this televised address is going to be carefully worded. And what is it trying to do? Of course, again, it is trying to show that to show the Americans as what? As possessing the high ground, right? The moral high ground, saying that, oh, we discovered the missiles. This is a grave threat, to the peace and security of the world order. We demand that you take the missiles away, so on and so forth. Naturally, the speech is not going to mention anything about the Bay of Pigs or Operation Mongoose. Okay, so what I'm trying to say here, that along with what Khrushchev did just now, okay, about saying that the missiles are for defensive purposes, and what Kennedy is doing, we need to see that the superpowers, they both have an agenda to portray themselves as the good guys, okay, and that is why they will shape their statements in a certain way, okay. So after that, the US naval blockade is put into place. What we see, okay, is that there is a delay, okay, and there's an intentional delay. Why? So the announcement is 22nd, the blockade is 24th. Why? To allow for Soviet response. Okay, allow time for the Soviet response. If I launch my blockade straight away, I'm afraid that the Soviets, they will get antsy, they will react violently. But by slowing it down, I'm reducing the chance of further conflict. Okay. So if you see, even the Soviets, okay, it's not just one side, right? The Soviets also delay their orders. So they are told to mobilize, but they also slow down. Because what we see here is that both sides want to avoid conflict. But both sides also don't want to lose face, right? Neither side wants to show themselves as, oh dear, I am the one who lost the Cuban Missile Crisis. Okay. So what happens is that then Khrushchev says, oh, very good, he's happy that the Americans have not launched an invasion. Okay, so he realizes, okay, I might have made a mistake. Maybe putting the missiles there is going to increase the tension. Instead, you don't say, right? So he offers to withdraw the missiles. Okay, in exchange for USA not to promise not to invade Cuba. So here we see the start of the negotiations. Okay. However, the military apparatus here means the machinery, right? That means all the command structures, the troops on the ground, all of these are preparing for war. Okay. And then Castro, right, he also itchy backside. He say, okay, I'm going to shoot down everything, right? If I see American spy planes, I'm going to shoot them down. What do we see here? Here, we see increase in military tensions. Okay, there's a possibility of conflict. So both sides, Castro, even if you look at the last point, the Soviet general on Cuba, okay, he is also sort of like taking things into his own hands. Okay, so because of the increase of possibility of conflict, how does it affect the superpowers? What it means is that both sides will want to end the conflict as soon as possible. Okay. And so what happens is that the Americans, they don't respond. So Khrushchev thinks that he can squeeze more of them. You don't say anything. Okay, I'm going to ask you for more. Okay. And so he says that not only must you guarantee not invading Cuba, you must, if you look at the second point here, it says, remember those missiles in Turkey? You got to take yours away as well. Okay, so he's trying to... Khrushchev is also employing brinksmanship, right? He wants to get more out of the conflict as he can as well. Okay. And so what will the Americans do? Will the Americans give in? They probably don't want to give in, but things are going out of hand, right? Because, okay, look at it. What happens is that the an American spy plane was shot down, even though he had orders not to fire. Okay, so it means that even though Khrushchev and Kennedy didn't want to fight, if you look at the second point here, it means that the situation is already going out of control. Okay, so they must quickly bring the things to a close. So if you look here, okay, this slide is slightly complicated. Okay, Kennedy says, okay, I will accede to your demands. And what is this demand? Don't invade Cuba and remove the missiles in Turkey, right? And why is he willing to do this now? It looks like this is not a good move for the USA, right? Because I'm losing some kind of atomic leverage, okay? But it's fine because firstly, he's doing it in secret, so it doesn't seem like he's giving in. Secondly, those missiles were obsolete. Obsolete means no longer relevant, okay? Not that so they are not as useful to the American nuclear strategy anymore. So it is not a military loss for the USA. Okay, so he's basically making use of this lah. Alright. So that is his solution. He will accept Khrushchev's offer. He will promise not to invade Cuba. So it makes Kennedy seem like what? Seem like a peace-loving man. Okay, and he secretly accepts Khrushchev's offer, so he avoids negative public perception, right? Because if I go out and say, okay, I'm going to give in to Khrushchev, it basically makes me seem like a weaker leader. But because it is secret, so he doesn't come across as weak, right? And this is what Khrushchev does. So Khrushchev accepts the deal. Very good, 28th October. Okay, and he removes the missiles. So of course this is a win for USA. But if you look at it, just how Kennedy secretly removed the missiles from Cuba, right? Khrushchev also secretly accepts the deal. So what is the implication here? Without Castro or the Soviet government knowing, this means, okay, Khrushchev does not look like a good leader, does not gain credit for this. Publicly, it looks like Khrushchev just, he put the missiles there, the US negotiate, they say, okay, I take back. So it looks like Khrushchev is losing out. Okay. So, okay, you can go through and look through this. This is more information in the textbook. I'm not going to cover it here. You can just go and read through by yourself. The summary is that eventually all the Soviet missiles were taken away from Cuba. Okay, and that is where we will end the next chapter. This is what we're going to look at. How we have looked at the story, then we're going to look at how the crisis, what contributed to the resolution of the crisis. Okay.